Now, let me ask you, what do you think about the end? The whole sequence with him in the police car and like all the rioting happening, and then the ambulance coming and colliding into the police car he was in, and everyone lauding him as a hero.
Like, do I think it actually happened? Do I think?
Yes. I think that was a delusion that he imagined. I'm not sure at what point. Maybe when he was in the back of the car, or maybe when he was in Arkham, I'm assuming is where he is at the end, but I just can't reconcile that actually happening.
Just because it seems so fantastic that someone could have actually saved him from the cops and actually have got him out.
I mean, just the fact that you have all of these people openly condoning violence and murder right out in the open like it was nothing. Like, I know the movie is building up unrest, but I can't think of anything that's ever gotten that ridiculous.
I mean, it's sort of implied that the economic situation in Gotham is severe to the point that, like, the downtrodden in Gotham would easily rise against the wealthy if given the opportunity. It hasn't happened in that form that often in human history, but like you look at what's going on right now in like Chicago or even Newark like 20 years ago. Like, people, it will become armed. People will like sort of take if given the opportunity. People will resort to violence if they think that's their only option to sort of be heard. I think it's realistic in that respect. I think the only really fantasy-driven moment in that scene is him actually, like, someone actually found an ambulance, crashed into the exact right cop car at the exact right time to have not killed him.
I can't believe that. Yeah. No.
Well, I'm going in with it as being a reality. I'd like to think that by the point he adopts the Joker persona, everything from that point on is reality in some way or another.
Because we see him having other delusions, like they clearly show that the woman who was with him, I don't remember if she had a name.
Zazie Beetz, Domino.
Yeah, her character.
Yeah.
That she wasn't actually with him in all the moments that you see her, aside from the first elevator scene. And he imagined all that. And he imagines him being on the talk show towards the beginning of the movie. So we know that he creates fantasies in his mind. And to me, that whole end sequence was a fantasy. Like, of course, he wanted to be propped up and seen as somebody rising above all of the cruelty, the apathy. He wanted to be recognized above all.
Like, regardless if those events actually happened or not, the symbolism in there is pretty clear. The symbolism that Arthur has sort of risen above his former life, that he's become this sort of idol in his own eyes, or among the eyes of the downtrodden. I think that's very clear in that final scene. But so as to what's real or fake, so I'm just approaching this as a cinema scholar, as someone who like went to school for film and television production and tends to like analyze films for like details like this. The only events that we know with absolute certainty were fantasy were his first appearance on the Murray Franklin show when he's in the audience and Murray's sort of talking back because he snaps out of it immediately because we sort of see it go into, like, it's so unrealistic to the point that it would have to be fantasy too.
Right.
The other thing is, because we know he eventually realizes that his entire sort of existence with Zazie Beetz, with I have no idea what her character's name was, but because of his whole experience with this love interest, because we know that whole thing was sort of in his own head, like anytime we sort of see them together, we can assume that's a fantasy, that she is the sort of key to his fantasies. So, like, anytime she's not on screen, I would assume it's real.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just me.
Well, they show like when he's sitting in her apartment and she acts surprised because it's like actually the first time she's seen him since they were in the elevator. They show a quick flashback to all the scenes she was in and then show her to like disappear from them.
So I think any of those scenes would probably have been entirely in his mind, or at least partially fabricated.
Yeah, well, I think he was actually present in all those scenes, but she wasn't. He was just imagining she was there.
Right. And obviously the whole thing about him, like the whole idea that he sort of killed it at his comedy, at his stand-up. Like the fact that we see on the Arthur Murray special, or on the Franklin Murray show, how terribly he bombed. Like, we know that's also fantasy. And we know he actually killed Franklin because, like, the immediately after he kills Franklin Murray, we're seeing this shot of all of these different TVs like objectively showing like what happened, and all these newscasts reacting to what happened. So I think personally that was enough to actually inspire the clown movement. That was enough to inspire a sort of following around this version of Joker in that final scene. That's why I'm sort of clinging to the idea that that final scene was reality.
One thing that makes me doubt my own belief that it was fantasy, though, was the scene where we, once again, in live action on screen, we see Bruce Wayne's parents get shot. And they die in front of him.
Admittedly, a pretty nice Easter egg, right? Like, yeah, I mean, I think it's just sort of a given at this point that any sort of thing that's showing Batman's origin is going to have to show his parents getting killed. But
yeah. I like the twist on it this time, where it's not the Joker actually shooting them like in the 1989
Batman,
film,
yeah.
right? But it's indirectly caused by him.
So, I mean, it sort of still drives home the point that the Joker and Batman created themselves, or created each other, you know, one way or another.
Well, in this one, it would be Joker that created him. But his family that I guess, his family's neglect that led to something like the Joker being possible.
Yeah, well, I mean, I still think it's possible that this isn't the definitive Joker, that within this version of Gotham, this is just a version of the Joker that led a future version of the Joker that would have been the version of Joker that Batman got famous for fighting. I think that's still a possibility. And obviously we don't know too much. This is just speculation, but, you know.
Well, for all we know, there might not even be a Batman in this continuity at all in any future.
Well, like, Bruce Wayne clearly exists, so I don't think they would have just tossed him in without the idea that he would eventually grow up to become Batman. But
now, did you think that the Joker was thinking about that at the end when he's being interviewed by the woman in the asylum? And
that's a joke between him and me.
Yeah, when he says something like, oh, you wouldn't get it, when she says, you want to tell me the joke? Like, he actually is thinking, or at least the film makes it look like he's thinking about Bruce sitting over his dead parents. But did he see that happen?
I think, well, it was happening in the same general location at the same general time, so it's possible. But I don't know. It's possible that also happened years later, and that it was just him sort of, like, recounting after he's already, like, become that figure that's involved with Batman. The fact is, that's probably the most unclear scene of any of them, you know? Like, that's probably the most speculation-driven scene of any of them. But, yeah, I mean, to be clear, that's like the only scene that I really don't have any strong theory on one way or another.
Because I'm not sure whether the joke is that he hated Thomas Wayne and he didn't even have to kill him for him to die, and that being the joke, or that the joke is that he ends up creating Batman.
Yeah. Or the joke is that he's the only one who gets it.
Yeah, maybe, but what is it that he's getting?
Well, if he's the only one who gets it, we wouldn't get it.